Okay, so I'm going to be going over Chapter 7, the end of the last video, stopped right about where I was talking about recall. Smee decided to join me for this video, so I apologize, but let's get going here. Okay, so we talked about recall. Remember, that's when you're retrieving information from your memory. When I asked you to name the 7 dwarfs, I didn't give you any retrieval cues. I just said name the 7 dwarfs, right? That's like fill in the blank or essay test where you kind of just retrieve that memory from storage without any cues. The opposite of that is recognition, where I'm giving you retrieval cues. Like when I showed you the picture of the 7 dwarfs, or when I put up the list of names, you're recognizing the names from a list of possible targets, okay? And that's just like multiple choice tests that you're going to get. The memory process, we know, is a 3-step process. You can kind of think about it like the process of creating a paper, you know? So encoding is that process of getting information into memory. You're typing in the paper, right? You're getting information in from the external world. Then storage, that's like hitting the save button. You are saving memories and information over time. And lastly, there's retrieval. Once your memories are stored, it has to be taken out at some point when that information is needed. And retrieval cues do aid in the recall of that. Okay. The 3-box model memory, as I go through each kind of memory, I'll be going through this, but I think this is a really good chart to reference because it talks about the limits and capacity and different kinds of these memories. Okay. So sensory memory is the first kind. This is that kind of split-second holding tank, right? If we're talking about visual stimuli, that's called iconic memory, okay? That's what the visual snapshot of what we're saying. It only lasts for a few tenths of a second. And the other kind of sensory memory that we've mentioned in class is echoic memory. That's the kind of memory that you have acoustically, okay? If a parent is lecturing you, if I were lecturing you and I said, what did I just say? You'd be able to tell me the last 3 to 4 seconds of things that I said because of your echoic memory. Your short-term memory then, if we pay attention to information, pay conscious awareness, pay attention to our sensory memory, that is going to then be transferred into our short-term memory, okay? We can remember 7 plus or minus 2 items. That means we can generally remember 5 to 9 items in our short-term memory. And we know that events are encoded visually, acoustically, or semantically. We know acoustically means we're hearing it. Semantically means we're giving some meaning to it. And we can recall digits better than letters. Okay. Ways that we can get things from our short-term memory into our long-term memory. Remember, there's chunking, grouping things together. Think like your social security number. Think like your telephone number. They are grouped together in groups to help us remember these things. Mnemonic devices are then memory aids, okay? Those are the stupid mnemonic devices I give you, especially for like the brain section when we talked about all of those. And then rehearsal, that's just that repetition, that conscious repetition of that information to get it into your long-term memory. Long-term memory is technically an unlimited storehouse of information. Stuff that goes into our long-term memory is supposed to stay there forever. We have explicit, we know that are declarative memories, episodic memories, and we have implicit, non-declarative memories, and we'll talk about them. So explicit memories, these are specific episodes, memories, specific facts and experiences. Like you remember the day that you got your first bicycle and learned to ride the bike as you went around your cul-de-sac or something like that, right? That is an episodic or explicit memory. Now, the kind of opposite of that is an implicit memory. These are procedural skills. Think back to Clive Wearing. Though he had no explicit memory, he was able to still play the piano incredibly well. He was still able to eat, to tie his shoe, and do things like that. Those are implicit procedural memories, where explicit memories are the specific episodes, specific things, right? Like facts that we have to study for an AP Psych test. Okay. Mood congruent memory. Remember the idea of that is when we're happy, we're more likely to recall happy memories. We're sad, sad memories. When someone would be drunk, drunk memories, okay? Encoding information, we know that there's something called the serial positioning effect. Remember I asked you guys to recall the list of presidents, right? Primacy effect is when you be more likely to remember George Washington, or the things, or the first people you met, and the last people you met would be the recency effect, okay? But together, those are serial positioning effect. More likely to remember things at the beginning and end of a list. Like, remember I talked about my grocery lists, that if I forgot it at home, I'd usually remember the first and last things, usually in the freezer in the produce section, and the things in the middle I would not remember as much. Spacing effect, then, we know this, I've talked about this a million times. Do not cram, it is not effective, and Ebbinghouse's forgetting curve tells us that. But that's called the spacing effect. We are spreading that out, right? Okay. The ways we can encode, we know visual encoding. Remember the half of you that had the pictures that I had you rate on a scale of how well you're able to picture them in your head did much better than those who just thought about what the words sounded like, okay? So visual encoding, we have acoustic encoding, what we're hearing, and then semantic encoding, giving some kind of meaning to our memories. Constructive memory, then, Elizabeth Loftus, Elizabeth Loftus, Elizabeth Loftus. Do not forget about her. She was in, I think, 3 video clips that I showed you guys, okay? Memories are not always what they seem, okay? We construct them. Our latest memory is just the memory of the last time we recalled an event or something. We construct it. Don't forget about her misinformation effect when she did the study of how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? How fast were the cars going when they crashed into each other? How fast were they going when they bumped into each other? And you got different rates of speed with those different prompts to the questions. Storing memory is wise. Don't forget about long-term potentiation. I was surprised at how many people actually got this multiple choice question. I think it's just a definitional one incorrect. Long-term potentiation is like exercising your neurons, okay? Neurons that are forming memories are going to be when they're working together, when they're working in sync, when they're practicing, when they're exercising, they're going to be more efficient and effective in the future. Just like if you were to start working out a lot, your muscles would get stronger, so do the connection of the neurons in your brain and make those memories more long-lasting. It's an enhancement in your neural pathways. Don't forget about the hippocampus and cerebellum. We know these are the neural centers in our brain, okay? So the hippocampus, that helps with explicit memories, okay? Those are those episodic specific facts. That's in the limbic system, and that is in, obviously, yeah, our limbic system, okay? The cerebellum, then, that extends from our, the rear of our brain stem, okay? And this is really important in the storage of implicit memories, those procedural skills. Okay, forgetting then. So there are 2 types of retrieval failure we talked about that you'll probably get confused about. First, we have proactive interference, and that is the disruptive effect of prior learning on the recall of new information. The example I gave in here is if you call your new girlfriend by your ex-girlfriend's name. Do not do that. That would not be good. This guy learned the hard way, right? But you're having trouble recalling new information because it's like blocked by old information. Then retroactive interference is the opposite, where you are having trouble recalling old information or retro information because you have new information. Please make sure you're able to differentiate between the 2. Motivated forgetting, we know sometimes we revise our own histories. Also repression. Remember, Freud. This is psychoanalytic theory, okay? Source amnesia. Remember the example they used in your textbook of that woman accusing the news reporter of raping her, but his alibi that was that he was on television? And it's because she mixed up those sources of his face and her rapist's face. So you're attributing that to the wrong source, some kind of event you experienced and that you might have read about or imagined. Maybe you thought it happened in real life, but actually it happened in your dream. You didn't remember the source of that memory. Infantile amnesia, this is a big critique of people who say that our memory is long-lasting and long-term. Okay, why I don't remember our early childhood? Really, it's probably because that our brain isn't formed yet. We can't encode language if we can't produce language or understand language yet, right? So that's definitely a viable defense, okay? Specifically, our hippocampus just isn't developed yet. Memory construction, we know that different things in our environment can influence your memories. Even on tests, that's why they say make sure you eat a good breakfast and do well. You really need to sit down. Eat a good breakfast, because if you're in a better mood, feeling better, that's going to help you improve your memory, recall things more readily. Okay. I'm going to stop this video here, and I will make a Chapter 7B video.